The United States' practice of sending deportees to third countries has stirred intense debate, especially after Eswatini confirmed it accepted arrivals in exchange for millions of dollars, approximately $5.1 million. Now, the secrecy around the deal and the backgrounds of the deportees have raised serious questions and concerns. As legal and rights challenges grow, key questions now focus on the motives behind the policy, the risks for host nations, and the consequences for the people being moved. At this point, I'm joined by Bolu Michael-Biyi, a foreign policy analyst from Lobamba, Eswatini, and he'll be, of course, sharing his thoughts with us on the show. Thank you so much, Bolu, for dropping by. I can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Right. So, according to the U.S. authorities, many of the people being deported have serious criminal records, yet Eswatini has agreed to receive them in exchange for payment. So, does this suggest that financial gain is being placed above public safety?
Well, I think on the surface, it looks like financial gain is being placed above public safety because, when we look at, Eswatini as a country, I think it's the smallest country in Africa, middle income economy as well. And I mean, I live here, I experience everything firsthand. Eswatini needs a lot of money to develop its infrastructure and do a lot of things. So I think, that amount of money, $5.1 million, would be quite mouth-watering. I do not believe that all of that money will go into, investing in, convicted felons or 160 people. I think that money will be channeled to other things, as well. I don't think that amount of money would go into all of that, But when we look at the public safety, it's very important. It's quite unfortunate that Eswatini has become a safe haven for criminals, even without this, sending of deportees. People come from neighboring countries like South Africa, and they hide safely here in Eswatini because it's quite difficult to locate them. The way houses are built here and structured is they live in kind of sparse communities, and some in really remote places, and they have access to water, electricity in all these remote places. So you can find a criminal living comfortably in some bush in Eswatini, and that's just how it is, and the country does not really have strong system and structure to actually locate some of these criminals. So I think the $5.1 million will be mouth-watering to the government, and they will jump at taking in people that even their own country won't accept back, and that's what makes it really amusing that taking people that their own countries wouldn't accept.
So that's actually the bone of contention for a lot of people who have actually jumped on this conversation. Now, these transfers would include individuals convicted of extreme crimes such as murder, child rape, people, just as you said, their own countries have refused to readmit. But then before we begin to outrightly condemn Eswatini, let's even look at US. Should US not also be faulted for creating this kind of arrangements, or is this the only remaining option once removal is legally mandated, for the U.S.?
Okay, let's look at it this way. These persons are convicted felons, which means that they've passed through a legal process. So it's not really like they don't have access to legal surveys and all that. But the US, they need to understand the impossible corner they've put themselves into, because the way the US law works, it has a mandate that certain categories of non-citizens must be removed from the country after serving their criminal sentences. And that's not anything controversial in principle if we look at it, because most countries, that's how their law works. They deport foreign nationals back to their country who have committed serious crime and they've served their sentences. But where the problem now comes in is when that home country does not want to accept them back. And for human rights reasons, the only option that I think most countries would consider, not only US, would be to extradite them to send them to a third-party country, and that they make it open. Tell the country, third-party country will give you this amount of money to take care of them on our behalf, to build the correctional facilities and all that, whatever you need to absorb them, because They can't stay in our country by law. Their home country has rejected them. If you are willing, we would give you this amount of money to do that job on our behalf. So it's like outsourcing their prisons, their correctional system, and that's what the deal is about, basically. So it's because of the US law. That's why they are, exploring the third party countries, and they didn't force any third party country to accept these people in. I mean, Ghana accepted some, Nigeria refused, some other countries have refused as well. So I think the argument is quite, there are two sides to it. There is a human rights perspective to it. There's a legal perspective to it. And, the US, they're doing this because they've been legally caught by their own local law.
Now, Bolu, several of these deportees have no ties to the countries receiving them. We're talking about people from Laos, Vietnam, Cuba, Yemen, even Jamaica, and now Eswatini, a place where they have no community or legal status, so to speak, are going to be, recipients of this set of people. Now, could this produce some unexpected economic issues? You talked about how it might affect security within communal places in the country, but what about economically? What about social pressures for the host nation? Isn't the kingdom also concerned about these?
So if I want to give you a straight answer, I don't think the kingdom is concerned about that, because it's a monarchy. Everything's all about the king, King Osatili. So there's nothing that happens in the country that does, this kind of arrangement. It definitely have a stake in it. So they're basically just creating a population of stateless people, and this is a country whereby there's no infrastructure to really support them. These people are not immigrants who chose Eswatini. They don't have family network here. They don't have any connection to this place. They don't have any support system, and they don't also have a legal status. So it will create a level of desperation, and desperation builds crime. And we've had instances whereby there's been prison breaks and all that, and these people, they've probably been, they've escaped probably US prison, probably gone back to another neighboring country, let's say Mexico. They catch them there, they bring them back. So leaving the prison in Eswatini would be child's play for them, and that's the concern of the average Swati person here. So when we have people with no legal way to work, they don't have any community tie, they don't have any family support, they will turn into illegal activities just to survive. And that's what we anticipate, and that's the fear of people. There are certainly police and security service that are not that equipped to manage this situation. They are known to be quite lenient, very lenient, compared to neighboring countries, like police in neighboring countries like South Africa. So they're going to be dealing with criminals or individuals that are even harder than themselves. They're dealing with individuals who from different, completely different cultural and linguistic background. They're potentially with gang affiliations that has never been heard of in the history of this country. So it's a huge concern to us as even persons living here as residents, and I can imagine how the citizens here that are probably going to live here for the long term will be feeling about their long term security.
Well, you said that the money is mouth-watering. I mean, 5.1 million. Why not take the risk? Now, even the Eswatini's, that's the finance minister, said that money would actually be deposited into a disaster management account. But aside that, there is no, public explanation, no sort of giving full details as regards how the money would be used. So, should the lack of transparency, raise some sort of concerns about how this particular money that has been received will be managed?
Absolutely. The will definitely raise concerns, and it's a massive red flag. But it's not like the people in the country have any power to protest or whatsoever. The last protest we had was a couple of years ago, and it didn't turn out well at all. And, a large population of Swazis here are very timid. When one person has been tear gassed or shot and the news spreads around, the population of Lagos is bigger than the entire country. We're about just 1.2 million here, really small country, and the bad news spread faster than the mobile data. So it's it's to scare the people from even protesting, and they're used to not talking than talking. And the term disaster management account is kind of vague. It's extremely vague language, and people have lost trust in the system. They won't even be bothered because anyway, everything is about the king. So it's that word, the disaster management account. There are no details about it. It could mean anything. In practice, it means little or no oversight, especially in a country where the governance track record is so bad. The opacity around large cash transfers that have come into the country in the past, has triggered alarm bells, and nothing has been done about it. So that's the challenge with being in an absolute monarchy, because the accountability mechanism is almost absent, and the history of corrupt concerns is insane here. There's the civil society oversight is also quite weak. You see, I've seen the video of a few people gathering together in the alleyway, just doing their thing, not really making any noise, not really protesting. It felt like a morning walk to me. And honestly, I can't blame them, because they can't do more than that. They probably go missing, or end up in jail till infinity. It's quite unfortunate, and that's the problem with living in an absolute monarchy.
And it's quite interesting, Bolu, that even this agreement between the US is said to be in secrecy. That not everyone has, access to the details of the agreement, and even lawyers in Eswatini are arguing that the detentions and the agreement itself bypass constitutional requirements for oversight and public accountability. So are they right to actually treat the arrangement that Eswatini has had with the US as unconstitutional?
Well, they might not do, well, it's just a passing opinion for any legal person within the country. It's just their own take. It's quite unfortunate. It doesn't hold water, any substance to actually change the course of governance or want to bring any level of accountability, because the government is used to keeping things secret. And when something has become a habit, the people get used to it. It would be a surprise. What will actually make news will be the government being open, not the government being secretive. But both governments are, they're keeping things secret. They're used to, people here are used to it. We're used to it here in the country. And the government also would not want to create, the level of public disclosure that will destabilize the quality or the safety of the country. Eswatini wouldn't want to be in the news for bad reasons. That bad reasons on being the headline of global newspapers, quite close, one of those close countries, similar to, kind of North Korea, North Korea is extreme, I get, but it's not one of those countries. You want to list the top 20 countries off at the back of your fingers. Eswatini or Swaziland would not be at the top 20 of the average African. That's what I mean. So they wouldn't want to create any problem that they cannot deal with. Don't forget, I said earlier that they don't really have that security infrastructure or apparatus to really control chaos, and from the US perspective, the agreement is legally questionable. We know that it's politically toxic, in my opinion, but at the same time, the money is needed in the country. From Eswatini's perspective, the deal is deeply unpopular domestically. Most Swazis are not happy about it because there's widespread unemployment and poverty skyrocketing at an unassailable rate. And they would want part of that money to be going into something constructive, not to harbor 160 plus convicted felons. So that's how it is right here in Eswatini right now.
Okay, so we are going to end with this. Now, looking at the details of the report, some of these individuals who will be deported would not have access to legal course, most especially legal access for those who might need to be tried and be supported at the court of law. Then we also have issues with people who do not have clear charges. They've not really been accused of a particular crime, so to speak, and those who will not even have access to their family. So basically, we're talking about a policy that actually risks violating international laws, including the principle that bars transferring people to places where they may likely even face torture and persecution. So in just about a minute, are we witnessing a potential breach of human rights obligations?
Yes, definitely, because holding people without, clear legal status or without charges, without any judicial oversight or any, legal representation, it clearly violates the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which both the United States and Eswatini have ratified, and part of it is the right to family life. So when deportees have no family members, even in US or elsewhere, Eswatini, removing them to a third party country where they have no connection whatsoever, violates their family unity, which is protected under this international law. And there are also trafficking concerns as well, because the average legal scholar would argue that paying countries to accept people against their will constitute a form of trafficking, and which is actually quite valid. So yes, to answer your question plainly, there's an extremely high risk that, based on all the available evidences, the violations that we are seeing occurring, organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, who have documented cases, will probably call it out and flag it as a violation of international law.
Okay, well, we are going to see how Eswatini would be managing these set of people. I understand about 15 have been sent to the country out of 160 that the kingdom is actually expecting. Well, let's see how they'll be able to manage this situation, probably try them in courts, probably sort them out, and see how it would not affect the country adversely. But we must sincerely thank you, Bolu Michael-Biyi, foreign policy analyst, for sharing your thoughts with us on the show at this time. Thank you.
Sure.